So I'm back in the workshop today. We're going to be working on the burst cannon. I've got a few new parts that need to be fitted, such as the front brace, the body we need to rough out as well, and start planning where we're going to be putting those details. In order to do that, we need to disassemble what's currently there and design and build the metal framework that's going to hold the foam on. Since it's not going to be any load bearing structure, we can use some 10mm EVA foam. And that'll allow us to carve in the details that we need. There's a couple of plate lines and a few other details that we can add in, and maybe even think about some extra detail further down the line. Once that's done, we can attach the parts that I've printed for the ammo drum. Hopefully by the time we get to that point, the second half of the ammo drum will have finished printing, and we can add that in, and hopefully we get a better picture of what the entire thing looks like. So if we get to that point and we have enough time, I'm going to put the shroud back on and we can take a look and see what it looks like. So I'm going to jump straight in. Okay, so we've got the old one off now. We just need to take the bearings out and place them into this new one. As you see, it's a bit different, but the weight of them is very, very different. So we should have a much better time, a much easier time lifting the new one compared to the old one, because the old one is pretty heavy. Okay, so that works. If I connect this now, you see that's still spinning really well. It's grinding at the moment because I haven't secured it with any nuts on the other side here. So that's what that noise is as it spins. Might need to adjust it slightly, but no, that's fine. So what we need to do now is get this new one back onto the frame and get it all reassembled. Okay, so that's now reassembled and reattached. I've not attached anything permanently, such as these wooden braces. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to keep them in their current state. I may need to do something else. I may end up doing something else. But currently, I've just put them in place, so I've got one here that just keeps falling out. If I do intend on keeping them, once everything else is done, then I will permanently fix them in. Same goes for the actual front brace. It's just attached by a small bracket at the moment until I decide whether it's staying where it is or whether it needs adjusting. So that's fine. Our next step, so that we can start planning out the body, is to disassemble this section here and to remove this white piece here, as I've got a replacement that needs to go on. And this is one of the braces that I've already created for the box sack, and we need a second one. This one's going to be towards the front or the back, and then I need another one to go around the other side. And then we can start figuring out where the panels are going to sit. And yeah, then we can reassemble it and see where we go from there. Okay, so that's now disassembled. Time to attach this. Now, the print did fail for this part, but we've got a very clean cut there, so I should be able to reprint this other piece and glue it straight back on. So let's get this fitted. It should just slide straight on. There we go, right to the end. And now we can reassemble the wooden frame back onto here now that we know how far back it needs to sit. There will be a 10mm gap here, as that's where the front section of foam is going to sit. So I'm going to reassemble that and see where we go from there. I've gone and taken some scrap foam. I've cut this section out, so when I assemble it, I should be able to place that there, and it'll give me a good indication of where the rest of the framework needs to sit. Okay, so I've reassembled the framework now. I've cut some scrap foam up. This is all 10mm. That's to give us a better understanding of how everything's going to fit together. Now, I've got the metal bracket here, the brace, if you will. This is going to be adjusted slightly, but I need to create a second one of these. One of them's going to sit at the back here, and then one of them's going to sit right at the front here, and that's to give something. Give the foam something to actually attach to. As it stands right now, there's a little extra gap, and that's because the foam work on its own is not enough. It'll still be quite flexible. If you put any form of pressure in the center of this, it will just buckle. So in order to prevent that, what we're going to do is cut some strips of this foam card out and run it lengthways like this, from bracket to bracket, and that will give us some rigidity without actually giving us any weight, because this stuff weighs nothing at all. Now, one of the obvious questions I thought to myself was, why don't I just use the foam board for everything? And because of the shape of the actual body itself, it's much easier to carve out with foam. Now, if we take a look now at the actual 3D model of it, you'll see what I mean. So we've come into Fusion 360 here. As we can see, we've got the barrels and the central structural components. There's a few more pieces that we need to do on the actual physical prop, but this gives us a good representation of what still needs to be done. So if I start to bring in the main body here and the ammo drum, we can start getting a clearer picture of how large this is going to be, how wide it is, how tall it's going to be, and what sort of detail we're going to look at. Now, this is just the basic detail. I do fully intend on sticking some LED panels or maybe even some matrix displays on this to add a bit more oomph to the detail. But this gives us a baseline to work from. So we got this bottom section here, which I've 3D printed, purely because of the level of detail I want to achieve on it. It needs some cleaning up on the actual 3D print, but it looks pretty good. We've got these side elements as well that are going to be 3D printed, so we can retain the same level of detail, but the main panels that we have here, these are going to be either EVA foam or foam board. I'm not quite sure which we're going to do yet. It all depends what looks best. Now, we do have a large space to cover with these panels, so I think what we're going to need to do is create the brackets or brace, if you will, on the inside to hold this structure, this box together. Especially since we're going to have some sections cut out. If we use 10mm foam, I'm going to have something behind the foam to keep the strength. If we use thinner foam, say 5mm, then it's going to be a lot more flexible, but at least I'll have the double layers. With regards to the foam board, I could have that structural integrity because it is quite stiff, but it's really lightweight. The only downside to using the foam board is the edges are or can be quite difficult to cover up or neaten up. That's a decision we're going to have to make when we start to actually assemble it. First things first, though, I need to take measurements from the inside of this. And then we need to start planning out how these are going to attach to the rest of the structure. Now, we've got one of the braces already. We need to create another one and then start to get a better idea on where things are going to sit. So I think that's going to be our next step. The ammo drum is currently on the printer. Now, we've made this a much lighter weight, and it is mostly hollow. I've got some sections I'm going to attach some neodymium magnets. Hopefully that'll keep it closed. I do envision having the problem of it not lining up properly. If that's the case, then it will be quite a simple process of just having some eyelets or loops of some variety on one and some pegs or dowel on the other, so that they actually connect together and less likely to rotate out of place. So once they're finished printing, we can get those assembled and put onto the burst cannon. Okay, so that's pretty much the plan. Before we do any of that, we need another one of these braces. I've got a strip of material over there. I need to measure this out to make sure I get it exactly the same, and then we can add it on and then start building out the box section for the main body. So I've just been going over what I mentioned previously in using these foam boards actually to build out the box section. I started using some foam that I've cut to size, like this piece here, to fit on the side. And I really don't like how it's bending. So I thought, well, let's have a look at and see what the foam board actually looks like. So I've cut some pieces to size, and to be honest, they actually look really good. Two pieces of this foam board together comes to just around 11mm, which is pretty spot on. I mean, I was aiming for 10mm, so that's not too far off. And I'm sure I will be able to come up with a way of covering the actual polystyrene. But with the two layers, I can easily carve out the detail on the side, and it'll be much easier to place the extra detailing on the side like that. So I think I'm going to go down this route first, see how we get on, and then if I need to revisit it, I will do. But I think the foam board is going to give me the sturdier option. The 10mm foam is just not as steady. I could buy denser stuff, but it's just too expensive, so I'm not going to bother doing that on such a simple piece. So we'll carry on like this and see how we get on. Played about a bit with the foam board. It definitely looks like that's going to be the way to go. But unfortunately, I just don't have enough, so I'm going to have to order some more. In the meantime, the ammo drum has finished printing, so we can stick this on and take a look. It's a bit rough around the edges at the moment. I've only just removed the support material. There's a few holes, a few gaps we need to fill in, so we can stick this on though and take a look, see how it looks, and get a better understanding of what else still needs to be done. Right, so there we go, we've got the body all built. It's a bit rough at the moment. I still need to chamfer the edges, but I'm going to wait until next time to do that. We've got the ammo drum fitted on the back. As I expected, it's now back heavy, which should make it real easy to pick up. Just got my glove here for scale. I'm going to be building a new fist, a new lower arm, to be much more accurate to the model itself, and that will hide all of this. It also means I will have more room for the joystick I'm going to place here, and I won't need to wear a glove. The advantage of also having that is that I will be able to hide the hatch that's going to sit underneath. I just need a small access hatch so I can get to the cables that I need, disconnect them if I need to, and also I think the batteries themselves are going to fit in the middle here. I was originally planning on sticking them in the ammo drum at the back, but I think the weight of the ammo drum is high enough as it is, so I don't think we need to add into that. If we put the batteries in the center instead, I can seal this up and not need to worry about the magnets or anything like that. So the next time we visit this, I'm going to carry on with the body. I'm going to chamfer the edges, start filling in a lot of the gaps. I need to also start drawing out the detail. There is a cutout that needs to go on the side here, and also attaching the detailed panels onto the side. Of course, once I've decided on how this is going to sit, I can start taking a look at the detail. Now there's some carving that needs to happen here. Also on top, there's some lines that actually run down the length of the helmet. I don't expect I will visit that next week because I really want to spend the time to fix this problem here and make a really good attachment at the bottom. Once I've got this new one built, I won't be able to remove my hand from the burst cannon, so I really need to be able to open this with only one hand. And I really need to pay some attention and have a good think about how I'm going to solve this. Now, as I mentioned previously, I may need to seal these back up and then carve a new section out, something that I can control as being nice and flat, and that'll involve some metal work on the inside. I'm not going to do anything along those lines until I'm certain it will solve my current problem of a gap. Right, so thank you for watching. Next week we'll be working on the self suit, so stick around for that. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, notification bell icon, and I will see you next time.